Hey everybody, Mike here. Welcome to part 3, the final part of our interview with Joe Hunter, one of the owners and creators of the Acheron world. On Kickstarter, they earned $40,000 on their very first Kickstarter, actually more than $40,000. And in parts 1 and 2 and in part 3, we talk a lot about Kickstarter. We talk a lot about the game. I hope that you find this useful. If you do, I'd really like a thumbs up, a subscribe, a share, anything you want to do would be helpful. Yeah. So here's part 3. Our final part. Thanks for watching, everybody. What kind of general advice would you give someone that wants to launch something for the first time? And I'll ask another question. Are you guys going to do another product, another Kickstarter after when you finish this one?
The answer to the first question is probably get an itch.io page and put out your stuff. No one's going to steal your ideas, I think, is a lesson that I've learned from the corporate side, where people are dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars for products, and the advice that I've always heard from investors on that side is no one's going to steal your product. Don't worry about it. You have so much lead time. You've put in so much work that no one's going to try to overtake you. So I think getting your stuff out there as early as possible, and as soon as you have something that's roughly playable, if you can afford it and manage it, a website, at least get some social media. An itch.io page is a great tool to just upload things constantly, get feedback. Discord has been great for us because we have people talking pretty much every day and posting paragraphs and paragraphs of, here's something that's a typo, here's something I think could be improved upon, this seems a little weird, every time we do an update. So all of those things I think are great. Don't be afraid to launch a Kickstarter when you're ready. Really figure out the budget. So some Kickstarters are misleading. A lot of people definitely have either artist and editor on staff, or they have background funding. So we asked for $40,000. We had already put in some funds for art, and no one's getting paid salaries or anything like that. We're all working pro bono to get this out, and it's still costing quite a bit of money. And the $40,000 figure is what we knew we needed after we budgeted everything out. And so I'm so glad we got it. That's still kind of a surprising thing to me, but definitely research things, figure out your budget, ask people. Anyone who has experience is probably willing to say, here are some pitfalls that I didn't notice, or here are some things to definitely be aware of and that you need to make sure you have budget for.
Give me an example of a pitfall or a thing you didn't know you had to budget for at first.
Budgeting was probably all of the website hosting, buying domains, and then all of the web development costs. So those kind of snuck up on us with the actual amount that they were, but luckily that was in the pre-stages before we had launched the Kickstarter, so we already had some funds set aside to do that. It ended up being a little more expensive than we were hoping. An editor is going to cost quite a bit of money. If you're feeling like you can master InDesign and do all the editing yourself and make sure there's no typos or anything, then that's fantastic. But
good luck with that.
Editor is...
So your editor, you guys are doing InDesign for layout?
Yeah, I actually started, so anyone who's doing it themselves, there's a program called Affinity Publisher. It's a one-time, I believe, $50 fee. So you're not paying every year for InDesign. It's just a one-time fee. It can do everything that InDesign can. The only problem is it doesn't have as many tooltips. If you just Google, like, how do I do this? InDesign has all those answers, and Affinity Publisher does not. So it depends on how comfortable you are with that. But yeah, we're using InDesign. Our editor has the full suite, so luckily they're well versed in taking care of all that.
So your editor is doing the layout as well. How did you find your editor?
It's actually a friend of mine that I knew that was looking for some side work because of the pandemic. Doesn't have full-time employment right now. He has a bunch of editing experience. So I just approached him and said, hey, do you want to edit this book that you don't really know much about? It would maybe be a good thing because you're not exposed as much to the RPG world. And it actually has been really helpful to have an editor that does not know everything about the rules, does not know everything about RPGs, because he's given us some great tips of this doesn't make any sense to someone who's just looking at it. This layout that you were originally doing chapter wise doesn't really work because people aren't reading through it the same way you're reading through it. They want different information up front. So that's been really good.
Are you guys, one of the things that I noticed with Wizards of the Coast over the last years, they've increased their font size so that people like me can actually read the book. Have you guys thought about all of that kind of stuff in this whole process, like 10 point, 11 point, 12 point?
Yeah, so I actually have some pages that are 12 point, and I think that size is pretty much where we want to stay. We might go down to 11 point just because the font that we're using reads really well. I am dyslexic, so we
Okay.
had a lot of time where I was looking through fonts, making sure they're very readable, and then we found one. So it's an easily read font, so I think we could go down a bit in size. But on the page, it looks really good at 11 and at 12.
I think somewhere between 11 and 12 seems to be the sweet spot. When I'm doing my layout on my stuff that I sell on DM's Guild and talking to some other people who have done Kickstarters, that seems to be a spot where it's readable, but you can still get enough content on the page where you don't end up with a 600-page book that you can't afford to ship anymore, right? What have you? So you haven't started shipping yet. What do you think you're going to learn when you start, printing books and doing all that kind of stuff?
I'm going to learn everything there is to learn about distribution, which I can't really talk about right now because we're still in the early stages of that. Yeah, distribution is going to be a whole nother skill set that's going to get added on top.
Sure. Okay. I said it. The second question I asked was, do you guys plan to do another Kickstarter, and will it be the same world or something else, do you think?
It will depend. We're definitely going to launch another Kickstarter. We have two products. One is a much simpler system that I've been working on sort of as my break to working on Acheron based stuff. We have a plan for hopefully 3 more Acheron books and then this separate system. So if we sell a lot, we'll probably do a Kickstarter. I don't know, probably in around a year and a half for the next book. And then if that does well, then we'll just move on straight to developing the next book and the next book in the same vein.
What kind of general advice would you give about publishing or kickstarting or anything to a creator who maybe hasn't done one before?
General advice. Probably try your best, and this is such a hard thing to do, to build your audience when you're starting. So social media presence and itch.io is really good. When you actually launch your Kickstarter, hopefully more people will come on board and get exposed. It's such a hard thing, especially when you're looking at your 3 followers who are all your friends at first. It can be disheartening. That's where we were in the start until people started finding our website randomly, it seemed.
Right. I sell stuff on DM's Guild. I have YouTube videos. I have one video that's got like 2,500 views. I have a website where I give away a free magic item every Monday, and still like 3 people go on Mondays and take that free magic item. Right. So I have no idea how to build the audience. I should really find someone who knows how to build an audience from scratch, not like Matt Colville, who figured it out. I don't want to take anything away from him. His how to be a DM and how to play D&D videos are amazing, and he built out an audience from scratch. But he was already kind of a name, right? Like, I'd love to find someone like me or you who didn't have that name at all and figured out how to build a list. I don't know how much time we have left. We're doing this on Zoom, so what would you like to say in closing about the game, about Kickstarter, about anything?
So about there's a bunch of great advice online. Not all of it will apply. Take everything with a grain of salt. And my biggest suggestion is if you have a couple small projects, like I know that single page RPGs, which sometimes I download those and then it's like 50 pages, that sort of thing. So if you got some stuff like that, I would go ahead, maybe do a blind Kickstarter just for the PDF, try and get some people on board just to build an audience. That might be the best way to do it. About our game, if you're interested, hopefully there will be some links below that you can visit us at. We're actually, if I can do a little plug, we're doing a creature creation event over the next, I think, month and a half still. So if you got a cool creature idea that you think would fit in the world, we set money aside to pay the winners a little bit of a cash prize, get a free book or PDFs, depending on where that ends up in the ranking of first to fifth, and then also get art done for the creature and work with you to put it in the book. So if anyone's interested in that, please send us an email.
That's really cool. So if I went and looked at the beta and saw the monsters that are there right now, there's only a handful, right? Will that be enough for me to figure out how to submit a creature for this? Or are you looking more for an idea and not so much the stats? I didn't look at the rules for the contest, I have to admit. I know there's a contest.
So in the contest document, which you have to sign up for the newsletter right now. I still need to fiddle with the website. Our webmaster has been out for the past month, and last time I fiddled with it, I broke a whole page, so it's been a little iffy. Again, that's not my expertise, but there's information in that document about the types of monsters, an example of what a submission might look like that we actually worked with one of our backers to get art and everything for already. And hopefully that's enough information. I mean, for clarity, you can look at the monsters in the beta. That was what we're not really looking for stats because we still have to do all of the editing about what monster abilities are going to be and formatting and all that. But it's an idea. So if anyone has an idea, we're more than happy to hear it. We've gotten a couple good ones already, so it's exciting. And we're going to pick, I believe it is the top 5 and then have the community vote on it. So
one of the things is the entire world is surrounded by a wall, I think.
Yes.
And there was a breach hundreds of years ago. I'm not sure if we know exactly how long ago, and the breach was closed. I'm going to use quotes because I don't know if that's true. How much does the book inform the dungeon master of what the truth is, and how much does the book leave for the dungeon master, game master, or whatever it is, leave kind of up to us to really explore the lore and what's real and not real ourselves?
So this is one of the parts of our pitch. So we want to have enough information about the modern world where it's really easy to figure out what's going on, who the big players are, what this faction's opinion is about this other faction, what the government's up to. But because it's this big, overarching, oppressive government, history has been suppressed, books burned, people taken and disappeared who knew anything about anything. So our hope is that the GM, along with the players, will sort of build out what their personal history is of the world, and then that is a canon for the group, but maybe it's not the whole or actual truth whenever we put out more stuff.
Sure. I find that, so it's almost Orwellian, right?
Yeah, that was a big inspiration.
Yeah, Orwell and Cthulhu, however you say that. What else inspired all of your work here?
Oh, there's a bunch of inspiration. So for systems, we played a lot of 3.5 and Pathfinder. So that's why we have its skills and abilities split the way it is. Call of Cthulhu, obviously, and Lovecraft in general, and the whole mythos has been a huge inspiration. There's tons and tons of media, like old monster movies are a big part of it. So we have the more classic, like werewolf, wolfman sort of stuff, urban legends in general. So we have a couple monsters from like Japanese legend, the Philippines, South America, stuff like that. Yeah, it really just comes from all over the place. Our backgrounds go into it. Our expert explosives dev just redid our whole explosives tables and abilities around explosives and how that works because he's a rocket scientist, literally.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's just pulled from everywhere. I mean, there's ideas from books I read when I was in high school that have snuck their way in. Obviously, Orwell. Yeah, there's a ton.
The whole idea of hidden knowledge or knowledge history not being known or having to discover everything about the past, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that's our big inciting incident is the fact that the government said now you can study history. It's open. It's no longer illegal. And the swarm of people hunting for artifacts like Indiana Jones was also an inspiration, and Laura Croft and all of those more adventurous properties. So people are going out searching for ancient artifacts to sell on the black market. People are just trying to learn about their own history, and it's all sort of spinning out of control is the idea.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you interviewing me.
It's been great. I've learned a lot about Kickstarter, and now I have one more person I can reach out to and say, okay, I'm gonna launch this 30-page PDF for $3 or $5, whatever I decide to do, and get some good advice, hopefully. Any other closing words or anything? Any shout out you want to make to any supporters or influencers or anyone that really gave you guys a lot of help, or anything you want to say in closing?
Oh, there's been so many people. I think everyone on our Discord that has helped us tremendously with feedback is who I really want to thank, because they have been very supportive. I mean, even when there's setbacks, it's an attitude of it's okay, you'll get around to it. We believe in you, which has been very nice. So the whole Discord group and all of the backers have been fantastic.
I think I'm amazed. Like don't think I was ever on Discord for more than 10 or 20 minutes at a time until the last 12 months. And I think Discord, to me, because it's a little bit, there's people making sure that posts that aren't really good are gone pretty quickly, right? Mm-hmm. To me, Discord is one of the great ways to get advice or help on any topic, right? Like Rime of the Frost Maiden or any of the other tools and things that I use, Dungeon Draft and all those different tools. So I would highly recommend Discord for any creator. Get out there pretty quickly, and even if it's a small community at first, get some feedback and some ideas. I think Discord's a great tool for that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe. Really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything. Is there a way to be a late backer at this point?
No, so that's one of the things we're trying to figure out. Okay, there kind of is. So we have a Patreon, and if you are a Patreon supporter for a certain amount of time at the different tiers, then we'll send you a PDF when the book is finished. We haven't really figured out how to get a store up on the site and take pre-orders and send people actual physical copies. So that'll be up and coming. So we have a newsletter, and it will be announced there or on our social media, Discord, wherever.
Well, I mean, Patreon's a great way to do it, right? They take care of all the money, then you don't have to worry about collecting any data or anything, making anybody nervous that your site isn't totally secure, all that kind of stuff, right? So, all right, well, I'm going to put links to the website, to the Patreon page, to the Kickstarter page, and from there you can find all of their different social media and everything. I want to thank you, Joe, for being on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Mike. It's been fun.
It has. Have a great day.
You too.